Why, hello there, everybody. This is Spider-Man 117 back here with another review for Resident Evil Afterlife. So, this movie stars Mila Jovovich as Alice, and Alan Larder as Claire Redfield, and Wentworth Miller as Chris Redfield. But, I guess anyways, the point is that I'm going to be honest, this movie's definitely a guilty pleasure. Hell, I'll even read a line from the back of it. Amazing. The franchise just keeps getting better. Maybe in like movie terms, but like related to the video game, not so much. But as anyways, I do think that Mila Jovovich as Alice, she's looking better than ever. And she keeps looking better, even if the movies like some are like good or some I really like. But I mean, obviously we're not all the way through, so we'll keep on going. But Allie Larder as Claire Redfield, she's looking really good too, even though she just started in the last one. And then Wentworth Miller. He's not too bad as Chris Redfield, even though like he's like bald, and like Chris in the game has like hair on his head. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But anyways, at the start of the movie, Alice and her clones are invading the Japanese Umbrella station, and she has a shitload of clones with her. And I mean, it's always interesting in the movie when, like, the elevator, like, opens up, but nobody's in the elevator, and she ends up jumping down, or one of her clones does, and falls out of the vent, and just, like, throws some spear-type shit. Well, whatever that is, anyways, and then she has two swords, and, like, jumps around and cuts people's fucking heads clean off their shoulders, and then, like, she ends up getting gunned down, and then she, like, does this, like, weird power, which some of her powers, in my opinion, don't really, like, they're never really fully explained, when she can just, like, move the ground somehow and, like, kill everybody, and ends up one of her clones gets shot, so. But after that moment, then a couple of her clones have dual-wield TMPs, if I'm not mistaken, and they jump out of like a stained glass window, and then like throw this like kind of like hook thing, almost like Batman, up to the ceiling, and they're just sitting there just like shooting the shit out of everybody. And Wesker's at the facility, and like they're just sitting there falling, and they're shooting, and then they fall down, and one of them gets killed, and she jumps down, and then, I mean, it looked like she almost had to, like, reload, and she's behind the table, and she kills some of the Japanese people that are there, and then Wesker just gets up and just shoots a Desert Eagle at one of her clones, and she ends up dying. But then it ends up that some of her clones are, I'm gonna be honest, like, we never really know how many clones she has. I'm guessing, like, by the hundreds, and then it ends up being that Wesker jumps in an Osprey, like, helicopter sort of thing, and then he ends up purging the facility, and it's like this, like, nuclear device, like, explosion that, like, has a big ass hole in the ground, and so the facility's gone, and it just so happens that Alice, the original Alice, is in the Osprey gunner, and then, like, Wesker turns around and hits her with, like, the serum that, like, takes away the T-virus from her, so apparently she has no powers. But anyways, after she gets stabbed with that, and then apparently she has no powers. But anyways, if she has no powers, then how can the next part, when, like, she's getting her ass kicked by Wesker, like, and then he is not obviously at the console when he's beating the shit out of Alice, then the Osprey gunner, like, hits a fucking mountainside, and somehow she's not dead, and, like, Wesker's just magically gone, just, well, fucking not there. What the hell? And then what bothers me about this next scene is that Alice is like all of a sudden in an airplane and she hasn't seen anybody or no sign of life for like 177 days, and she ends up at this like airfield where Claire like landed the helicopter at the beach, and then like the Umbrella people captured everybody else but Claire, and then she ran away. And then it ends up happening that like Alice goes and like chases after her, and then like you get this moment where she's like walking and she has like dual 44 Magnums or 357, not sure. Anyways, like this like door's like halfway open in the airplane, and all of a sudden like like bats come out, or crows. Well, it's crows. I was mistaken. And then like Claire jumps out and like tries to beat the shit out of her, and then in one hit, all of a sudden she gets knocked out, and I'm like, damn. And then after that moment, or like a little later, then it does something that's in like Resident Evil 5, where it's like that like spider thing that can control people. Like Alice pulls it off, and then apparently like it wipes people's mind or something for like a little bit, and then Alice and Claire get back into the airplane and they're heading towards the city. Then it turns out that they're heading to Arcadia, which is a big ship, but then they end up flying over this like one prison place, and they circle around and it says help needed or wanted or help me or help us, whichever one it was. Anyways, there's like, it's a prison and it's like surrounded by zombies, and it's really tall, and they end up having to clear the landing pad, the people that are on the building, and they end up doing, and then barely by the hair of their ass they land the plane. And I think, one guy ends up holding the plane down enough, and then everybody else grabs onto it and it falls down to hold it up from falling off the building. But then shortly after that, Alice and Claire Redfield end up going down to the prison, and everybody else is showing them around, and they end up finding Chris Redfield, which is Claire Redfield's brother, which is common sense. Anybody that's played the game, or if you haven't seen the movie before, then this is going to be a doozy for everybody. And then after that, they eventually have to go get weapons from the armory, but to get to the armory, there's like no power, so they gotta like go down underwater, and like there's these like zombies and shit that are like chasing after them, and they gotta like avoid them so that they can get out from underwater. And then this like one girl gets like dragged beneath the water, and like it's like the Resident Evil 5 thing, and like the mouth just like splits open and just grabs this woman and takes her underwater. And after that, then they eventually get back to the roof with all the weapons, and then there's this horde of zombies that just hordes them. And then there's this one dickwad that just takes off in an airplane, and he gets to Arcadia and like crashes the plane, which then like, I don't know if it's just me, but like they kind of like skip over it to a certain degree. Like there's this like little bit of the film that doesn't make too much sense. Like the next scene, all of a sudden they're on a boat, like a small boat, to get to Arcadia, which is a gigantic boat, which that kind of confused me a little bit. But anyways, they get on it, and shortly after that, then they go down in the boat and eventually find like these pods with everybody in them. But anyways, then they end up finding Wesker, and then the one douchebag that like took the plane, and he has a gun, and they end up making Alice have to like drop her guns, and Wesker has a couple dogs with him, and then like somehow like glass ends up falling, and like she has to like kick it, and like she kills a couple dogs, and then like you think Wesker's dead, but he does this like weird ass thing where like his like mouth like opens up, fucking like going after her, and he gets like stabbed right in the head, and you think he's dead, and you're like, what in the fuck is this shit? And then the guy that was a douchebag gets left behind, and like the doors close, and then Claire Redfield like ends up just like shooting the monitor that the one guy was on. You know that guy's dead anyways. He's pretty worthless in my eyes, and they end up putting the bomb on the Osprey gunner, and they end up rushing on top of the boat to see it explode, and then Wesker goes away with the explosion, but and he might return in more sequels. So, and I always thought that was pretty interesting. And then just shortly after that, after everybody's released, they're all on top of the boat, and then it sets up another sequel, because it's like sequel bait, but what do you know, there's obviously another one. So then all the Umbrella people come, and like the even more Osprey gunners, and it just basically sets up the next sequel. So yeah, the movie's a guilty pleasure, and I've always enjoyed it, and I'm personally going to give the movie a 6 out of 10, because it's still enjoyable to watch. I mean, not the best, not the worst, but that's my opinion. So hey, have a good night.